federal warrant for this address. Keep your hands up and follow orders. This is the FBI. We have a warrant.
They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out, something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here, that she refused to do.
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
The only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. Institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Aquaba Hall rental space, and community office for our organizers. That was the building that has come under attack.
You need a breach? What do you need?
They want.
I don't know.
I'll tell them that money. Don't take it.
We will build a movement of white people that says hands off the Uhuru movement.
They see in the African People's Socialist Party a vanguard for the struggle for the liberation of our people. They see that because not just what we do here in the United States, but because we had the temerity to do like Garvey, to do like Malcolm X, and take the struggle of black people around the world.
Uhuru, and welcome to everybody. My name is Mwezi Odom, and I am the chairperson of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign, the counteroffensive that is waging the fight back against the vicious July 29 attacks on the African People's Socialist Party and taking the African Revolution struggle to its final end. And we are making the demand to drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. So I want to welcome everybody for being here on today. We have a very special program, and we want to make sure that we can get through everything today, and we want to invite everybody who is here to right now, before we move any further, to share this webinar. You can do that by texting a friend or emailing somebody. Tell them to go to tinyurl.com/hands-off-meeting and to get into this right now, or check us out on the Burning Spear TV YouTube channel, where this is also being aired live as well. So again, we want to thank everybody for being here, and we want to continue to thank our supporters, because this campaign is continuing to grow, and we are going to build, and we are going to fight back like hell so that we can take this revolution to the end, as I've said, and redeem all of the continuous struggles of the African liberation struggle, which is happening right now in this period and has never ended. So I'm very excited about today's program. As you know, you came here because you saw this invitation to this opportunity to participate in this webinar, Born of Resistance, fighting for African people to be free, drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. And we have a very special guest on today and who you will get a chance to hear from as well. But we want to welcome comrades Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. with the Prisoners of Conscience Committee and the Black Panther Party Cubs, as well as Comrade Mike Africa Jr. with the MOVE organization. We're going to use this opportunity in this webinar to also give some background so that you understand how significant it is that these comrades are not only here on this webinar, but have survived vicious attacks on themselves, on their families, on the Black community, and that we are so honored to have them here with us today as well. So just a quick overview for what we are to expect on today's webinar. We are going to give everybody an update on the counteroffensive, which is the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign. We're going to have an overview by Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who is, we are very excited to have here with us as well. And as you know, is one of the Uhuru Three, as well as we are going to continue on with the panel discussion, Born of Resistance, an interview with Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. and Comrade Mike Africa Jr. And then we're going to have an appeal because, as you know, we have to raise the resources for this fight back as we plan to put the state on trial. So we will have and also a very special guest and longtime supporter of the movement in that segment. We'll give you some announcements and we will be on our way. So before I move any further, I must take a moment to salute the profound leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who in this moment, we would not be here right now with the really profound opportunity to be able to defend the African liberation struggle, as the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party and leading this worldwide revolution for the African working class to be redeemed in this period. So Uhuru, Chairman. And as you know, you saw this video that was just played before we opened up. On July 29th, the FBI authorized military-style multi-city attacks on the Uhuru movement using flashbang grenades, drones, armored vehicles, assault rifles. This was an assassination on the life of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. They stole hard drives, computers, phones, and caused over $40,000 of damage. And we have, and this is why we are here today. But then 9 months later, after these indictments and after naming members of our movement as quote unquote unindicted co-conspirators, the FBI and the quote unquote Department of Justice has charged 3 members of the Uhuru movement, known as the Uhuru Three, with being charged as unregistered quote unquote foreign agents. And these individuals are Chairman Omali Yeshitela, chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, Chair Penny Hess, who is the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, and Jesse Neville, who is the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. So we're going to talk more about why it's really significant that we have to defend these comrades, but we want everybody to make the demand and have this at the top of your agenda to drop the charges against the Uhuru Three. So what are the charges? It's important that everybody understands what is happening right now. These indictments and the laws that they are using to charge the Uhuru Three is called under US Code Section 951, also known as the Agent of Foreign Governments Act. This has been used, coming out of the Espionage Act, and is a very serious charge, which has up to 15-year sentence. And it proves again how even further absurd and these charges are, claiming that the Uhuru movement and that, Chairman Omali Yeshitela and everything that we have, under the leadership of the party has been fighting for over 50 years is under the malign influence of some foreign agent, quote unquote, in this case, Russia. So we've seen this before. We know that these attacks are nothing new. And so again, we make the demand to drop the charges against the Uhuru Three. And we want to salute the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who has really, got us to a point where we know that we can and we will put the state on trial, and that we have white people who for the first time have been indicted, by working under the leadership of the African working class. And we want white people to also join us in saying no to the FBI's war against the Black liberation struggle. Because as we know, what is really happening is that this is an attack on freedom of speech. We understand that for African people and all colonized people, freedom of speech has always been illegal. And and this is something that the chairman has said, and it has had even deadly consequences for the colonized. So this bogus indictment to accuse the African People's Socialist Party and chairman in particular of being agents of Russia, who would, essentially saying that the party is weaponizing free speech. This is a statement. And we're going to talk about this more, but this is a statement to the fragility of this system that has, at its expense, bombs and, military force, but simply cannot stand the fact that the people are telling the truth and that the people are speaking out. So yet the colonizer, who is also interested in free speech, because this whole, where we are right now in this world as colonized people shipped all around the world, chasing our own resources, is because of the colonizers, their will for free speech. But as we continue to expose these attacks currently and historically, we must remember that we are looking at a very fragile, crumbling system that is in crisis and simply cannot stand our exercising our presumed democratic rights for freedom of speech. So we will put the state on trial, and these are some of the things that we will talk about as well. So I just want to really, we wanted to, use this quote, and we're going to talk about this more, but this is important because Chairman Fred Hampton Sr., was quoted saying that you can kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. And we are, as I've said, so honored that we have that these comrades, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. and Comrade Mike Africa are here, Mike Africa Jr. are here and have survived these brutal attacks on themselves and on their families and on the African community. And we want to really be able to lay out what happened, with the MOVE organization and what happened with the Black Panther Party as well, and why, as we say, and as it has been said, that you cannot kill the revolution because it is still living, it is happening right here, and it is live. So we're going to talk more about that, but there are other vicious attacks that are happening around the world. And I do want to also mention Comrade Gail Walker, who is the director of IFCO, whose father, Lucius Walker, has also led a really, has been very instrumental in the African liberation struggle, who was also just arrested recently, speaking of Gail Walker as well. So the children of the revolution are here and are not backing down. So salute to everybody. And we look forward to deepening that on today. And we have to understand that the African People's Socialist Party has led 51 years of relentless leadership and power for, revolutionary power in the hands of the African working class. So we are not to be, confused by why these attacks happen on July 29th, because the African People's Socialist Party has continued to build organizations all around the world, and will continue to build, and in the process, building dual and contending power, institutions that negate the colonial system and provide self-government for the African working class. And as has been said, building white solidarity with the African liberation struggle, because the African People's Socialist Party was founded in 1972 with the goal to complete the revolution of the 1960s, understanding that white people have a role to play in this. They are people too, and that they can work under the leadership of the African working class, seeking, winning reparations for the African working class as well. And so this was a message that the FBI tried to send to scare white people into having solidarity with the African liberation struggle. But we say, hell no, we won't go, and we ain't afraid, and we bring in everybody under the banner of hands off Uhuru and drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. So as I close out this section, we have to, remember that the chairman, Omali Yeshitela, has been, speaking around the world, building international solidarity, as has been said, and has developed the theory of African internationalism and brought us to the understanding, the very key understanding about the colonial mode of production, to understand that everything produced for the colonizer comes at the expense of the colonized, whether it's access to wealth, the experience of democracy, even the ideas that come out with it, among the colonizer. All of this was built on the assault on Africa and requires colonialism as its pedestal. There would be no Europe, no white people, no America without colonialism. And so this is an attack on the anti-colonial struggles for national liberation, for power, for self-government, and for self-determination. And we are here, comrades, to say, drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. We have a right to free speech, and that anybody who is fighting for freedom and liberation will, next slide, will be able to come under this work, and that we will win. So as the chairman has said, we are not retreating, we are building. And I want to take this moment to build my MC team, which, so I'm going to take a moment to invite up our co-MC for today, because we have a really exciting program, as I have said, and I want to welcome up comrade sister Lisa Davis, who is joining us here on today. Uhuru, comrade.
Yes, Uhuru.
Uhuru. So Lisa, comrade, it's always great to have you here, emceeing with me. We have a good time, and today we have a really great program, and we have our next speaker coming up. So I want to turn it over to you, comrade, and thank you for being here. Uhuru.
Thank you so much for having me here, Uhuru. You know, I stand in complete solidarity with my comrades in the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement. The Black is Back Coalition stands behind you as well. And I also just want to say, you mentioned Gail Walker, and she was arrested several days ago. She is local to me. It was Robert Menendez, who is the New Jersey senator, the New Jersey U.S. senator. And I know that we have some comrades from New Jersey in the chat. And we got work to do because we're going to challenge that. We are going to challenge it all. We're not retreating under any circumstance. So New Jerseyans, we got work to do.
Yes.
Yes. But now,
for the work for the moment, let's.
Yes. We got work to do everywhere we look. So we are ready for that work.
Yes.
And we're not retreating. But now it is always an honor for me to introduce the leader, the chairman, the leader and founder of the African People's Socialist Party, the leader of the Uhuru movement, one of the co-founders of the Black is Back Coalition, and so many other institutions for the liberation of our people. So it is my honor to introduce Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Chairman Omali Yeshitela has fought for the liberation of Africa and African people here and around the world for more than 50 years, having been a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in the 1960s and forming the African People's Socialist Party in 1972. He has built the mass movement for reparations, holding the World Tribunal on Reparations to African people in 1982, one of the first people to do that. And he led the world in making reparations a household world. He has taken the movement beyond protest and created over 50 institutions as the infrastructure for the liberated African workers' economy, including the Black Power Blueprint in North St. Louis. The chairman is the author of many books, including his most recent book, Vanguard, The Advanced Detachment of the African Revolution, and has spoken all over the world. And in 2019, Chairman Omali Yeshitela won the debate at the Oxford Union on the building of a closer African Union. Please join me and everyone here in welcoming Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And he also has another book that he will be releasing soon that it is expected to come out within the next couple of months, and we'll hear more about that as well. Uhuru, Chairman. Uhuru.
Uhuru. First, I'd really like to thank you, Comrade Sister Lisa, for the introduction. And you, Comrade Sister Chairwoman Mwezi, for hosting this event and for providing leadership for the Hands Off Uhuru campaign. I am extraordinarily happy to be in this meeting with everyone who is here, of course, but I want to take my hat off to especially to the young comrades, Fred and Mike, Fred Jr. and Mike Jr. And we're going to say a lot, and they will be saying stuff about themselves and what they represent. But I just want us to remember that this is an event that should not represent some sadness or some somber occasion, because what we are talking about and is the brutal arrest, brutality inflicted upon the families of the two young men who are here. In fact, they represent a failure of this criminal social system in the war that they have waged against African people historically. And it is correct, of course, that what Chairwoman Mwezi has stated, that Black people freedom, free speech has always been illegal for African people. It's conceptually impossible to imagine a free speech for enslaved, for colonized people. So that's not the case at all. I want to just say a couple of things that about the relationship that me, the African People's Socialist Party, me personally, the African People's Socialist Party, have with these incredible young men who are here with us today. In fact, before when I met Fred Hampton Jr. so many years ago, we were very, very, very close. Politically, we became close, and on a subjective level as well. And I was talking to Fred a few days ago, and I mentioned something that I'm sure he probably didn't quite know what the hell I was talking about. But I traveled throughout Chicago. We were organizing in Chicago. Fred was the first leader of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement Chicago branch. And after Fred was arrested in Chicago and went to jail in Chicago, I did a lot of traveling with his mother and with his daughter, who at the time may have been 7 or 8 years old, maybe a little older than that. And she was a fiery young girl. She would get fake and being upset with me, and would challenge me and say, you got to get out the car. Her grandmother, Fred's mother, would usually be driving the car, driving us around Chicago. And that's just a subjective and warm experience that I had. But I was also in the various meetings and discussions early on where we talked about the murder of Fred Hampton, and where Sister Afua, Fred Jr.'s mother, talked about how she was in bed with her husband, Fred, who had been drugged by an FBI force. And so he was unable to raise his head even to respond to the brutal assault that was made on West Monroe, where they were, and where they shot their way into the house, killing Mark Clark first before he could even open the door, shooting through the door. And then coming in and shooting through the wall using diagram that had been given to them by an FBI informant, force agent, if you will, and shooting through the wall at the place where Fred and Akua, Fred's wife, were asleep. And she talked about how in that bed, she could feel the bed shaking from the bullets that were coming through the wall into the bed. And she talked about how after she was dragged out, 8.5 months pregnant, dragged out of the room by police after they had finally stopped shooting. And they were alerted that there's a pregnant sister in there, and they dragged her out by her hair, and how she heard someone said that he's barely alive, and then a gunshot following that saying, well, he's good and dead now. And the FBI and the police, they danced, they cheered of that. The police in Chicago taken up on a song that had been made early on, had become quite popular, Fred is Dead. And they began to sing the song, Fred is Dead. This became a popular refrain in the police department. Then you had the situation, and so that was a motivating factor to do the work that we did in Chicago. That was an incredibly significant thing. But they said Fred is dead, but they were wrong. And the presence of Fred Jr. Here is evidence of that. In fact, what Fred has said, you can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. And that they have killed and destroyed and maimed, harassed, terrorized African communities and things like that since we were first brought here at gunpoint. And naturally, we have always resisted, and the revolution continues to live despite that. So they saw it as a victory, killing Fred Hampton. But the fact of the matter is the revolution lives. Fred was absolutely correct when he said that you can't kill the revolution by killing an individual. I was in the thing that brought us to Philadelphia was the assault that was made in 1985 on MOVE, but we were quite conscious of MOVE. We had seen this attack that was made in 1978. They have killed MOVE children. The police, the state has done that. They locked up 9 people on the flimsiest of charges after they had actually killed one of their own and making an assault on MOVE. And those people included Mike Africa's mother and father, who locked up for 40 years or so for nothing, just for aspiring to be free. I think it's important to mention that when we talk about Fred Hampton, when we talk about Mike Africa and the MOVE family, when we talk about the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement, we're not talking about forces like, we're not talking about the Wagner group marching on the Capitol, bringing helicopters, military materials and equipments, et cetera, trying to overthrow the government. We're talking about people who actually were involved in organized masses of African people. We're talking about people who were talking to people, organizing people. And as opposed to it representing the defeat of our revolution, killing and maiming and destroying people like that, what it shows is the fragility of a social system based on terror, based on colonialism and genocide. We look at Gail Walker, whose father, Lucius Walker, was one of the founders of the IFCO, Inter-Denomination Foundation, forgotten exactly what the entire name is, but IFCO. Her father, Lucius Walker, was also played a role in organizing the first African Liberation Day mobilization that happened in the United States in 1970 and 1972. May 27th, in fact, 1972, which is also the founding date of the African People's Socialist Party that consolidated itself during that process. And so Lucius Walker, Reverend Lucius Walker, is dead, but Gail Walker is there. And so the killing or the death of individuals obviously have not been able to crush this movement of ours. And so you're talking about a military force that actually engages in wars from outer space, that's built satellites and created drone factories and drones and established them in countries all around the world, that sanctions of countries and peoples and sanction our party and our institutions, et cetera. With all this power, with atomic weapons that continues to threaten the world, but they can't tolerate a discussion. Free speech is a fundamental issue here. And the oppressed, of course, must have access to the truth. That's how you know who's telling the truth, when you hear a discussion, a debate between the colonizers and the colonized. The fact is that it is the colonizers, it is the oppressors that must always suppress and distort the truth. While the colonized, those of us who are oppressed, that cannot become free unless we have access to the truth. We must have the truth. We must tell the truth, because that's the way forward for our liberation. So there's a material and objective basis for that. That truth itself is objective, and it's not just some fanciful thing that somebody can make up. And you think about this, you see a social system that is incapable of defending itself ideologically and politically. And that's what we saw in the 1960s. When this assault was made through the counterintelligence program, as it was characterized. But the counterintelligence program is one manifestation of counterinsurgency war that was waged against us. At the same time, this war was being waged against peoples throughout the world, in Cuba, and in Nicaragua, and throughout Asia, Vietnam, and all of these places. So you had this counterinsurgency war being made against us. And the reason they made a war against us is because nobody was actually attacking the capital of the United States. They were just talking about winning people to a recognition of what our reality is and what we have to do to be free and how to organize to become free. And it was something, a debate that they could not win. We had won that debate ideologically and philosophically and politically. And so you have situations where independent Black organizations were popping up, not just African organizations, but Mexicans, indigenous peoples, other indigenous peoples, et cetera, building their own organization. People developing their own political programs and turning their backs on the philosophy, the ideology, the organizational entities of the United States government. It challenged the entire colonial mode of production. And it was because they could not defeat us militarily, politically, and ideologically that they waged military assault against us. It's fragile. It doesn't have the ability. Can you imagine Joe Biden and Fred Hampton involved in a debate about the future of the world and about the conditions that we live in? It's something they cannot handle. And so in the face of that, free speech is something that they have always attacked when it comes to us who are colonized. And so if you speak freely, if you talk about the conditions of our people, if you say that it's supposed to be legal for us to participate in the electoral process, to engage in elections, and if we do this and we say that on this election, in this election, we want to put reparations on the ballot, we want to put community control of the police on the ballot. We want to have the people an opportunity in the United Nations to discuss the question of whether or not the United States is guilty of violating the United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Crime of Genocide. If you say that, they don't say that we are shooting you, we are bombing your church like we did in Birmingham to keep you from voting and participating in this process. They don't say that we are treating you the same way we treated Paul Robeson and even W.E.B. Du Bois, who tried to speak out against genocide against African people, or who tried to raise the question of colonial conditions of African people. They don't say that we are attacking you because you have traveled and winning allies for African people, talking to others about the conditions of African people. They say instead that this is not an assault on your free rights, on democracy. It's an assault on you. It's an assault on Russia. And they have the worst GPS system in the world because somehow they confuse St. Petersburg, Florida for St. Petersburg, Russia. But of course, they don't want to have that direct confrontation with Russia or any other power like that. From their perspective, it becomes easier to silence us, and partially and essentially because we reside, we exist, we struggle in the nerve center of this oppressive social system that dominates the world through terror and controls the political economy of the world, even if it does so on a much shakier basis than it has done in the past. So this is why we are here. And free speech is something that cannot be tolerated on West Monroe in Chicago, in Canfield Drive in Ferguson, St. Louis, or in St. Petersburg or other parts of the world, that we are under assault because we're standing up. And also it's a statement about the crisis that the social system is experiencing at this time. So it's always been questionable. It's always been a problem for the slave, for the enslaved, for the colonized to speak up against our oppression. But now, when the system is going through such an extraordinary crisis, partially because the colonial mode of production is shifting, the whole political and economic configuration of the world has changed and is steady undergoing change right now. And the challenge is the hegemonic domination of the United States and the traditional colonial powers. The whole capitalist social system rests upon this. And so that's what we're looking at. And that's why we have to say fight for free speech. And that's why we have to really celebrate Comrade Fred Hampton Jr. and Comrade Michael African Jr. and all of those others who have stood up, who replaced them, who stepped forward to continue the revolutionary project that's absolutely necessary in the face of the horrible oppression that we experience. So we say, hands off Africa, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. And again, I just want to welcome everyone who is here, and especially these two young comrades who represent the failure of terrorism, because part of what the objective was to terrorize the families, the move families, to terrorize people like Fred and his mother, Akua, even as they terrorize the rest of us and the rest of the peoples of the world. It has failed. We continue to struggle. We will struggle because we are winning. Uhuru.
Uhuru. We are winning. Uhuru, Chairman. Wow, I just really want to appreciate that overview, Chairman, and just I just wanted to say a few things that really stood out in terms of, and I know we're going to deepen this as we move into the next section, and but I just wanted to reiterate that it is an example of the failure of the system, and we can deepen even just the whole question around free speech and just the debate, just the fact that you could have just, we could have just had a debate about it. And I think that's a really important point, Chairman, that you raised and that you have raised before. And Sister Lisa Davis and I just wanted to take a moment because I forgot to say this out loud, but I want to appreciate our chat moderator for putting this in the chat that we, as we said, this is a fundraiser and that we want to call on people and tell you where to go so that you can donate also for today. And just really following that electrifying, overview by the chairman that really deepened this, we want you to go right now to handsoffuhuru.org/donate, because this is the political and the ideological leadership that we need and that we will continue to build in the courtroom and fight in the courtroom as we have to be able to have the resources to pay our legal team to really wage this fight back. So go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. And I want to thank, and I think somebody may need to mute, but I want to thank our chat moderator for putting that in the chat as well. And Comrade Sister Lisa Davis, I know you may have a few things to say just as we transition. And then I want to say where people are tuning in from, because we have a lot of people on with us today.
And I just want to say, I can't think of a better way to make use of them dead presidents on the bills than contributing to the Black liberation struggle and the struggle against oppression for all people. And I also just want to say that we know that there are so many other struggles going on, around this country, even around the world, but we stand united with all people standing up against oppression. We know that there's stuff going on with Stop Cop City. And then I'm hearing things about what happened in Tampa, Florida with the arrest of young students. So we know that this is going on. Even people are being arrested for protesting, within the Black Lives Matter movement in Cuban, people are protesting and arrested for standing up against what's going on in Cuba. We just want to take a moment to recognize all those struggles and say we stand in solidarity with all of you.
Uhuru, yeah. So go ahead and, like you said, put those dead presidents to use.
Yes.
Go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. We have a goal at which we will meet today. We have a goal of raising $2,000 for this program, and we're going to talk more about that in the appeal. But we're going to keep reminding everybody to go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. And I want to salute everybody who is tuning in. We have people tuning in from Oakland, California, San Diego, California, Los Angeles, California, Ecuador, Miami, Florida. Yes. Houston, Texas, Fort Myers, Florida, St. Louis, Missouri, Huntsville, Alabama, Buena Park, California, Silver Springs, Maryland, Louisville, Kentucky, Boston, Massachusetts, New York, Gearhart, Oregon, Flossmoor, Illinois, Lakeland, Florida, Z Hills, Florida, if I read that correctly, welcome, Lexington, Kentucky, Iowa City, Trinidad, right on Trinidad, New Jersey is in the house. Yeah. New Jersey's in the house. Birmingham, Alabama's in the house. Yes. Chicago, Denver, Philadelphia, Gainesville, Norfolk, Virginia, Miami, Florida, and Largo, Michigan. Yes, and keep putting it in. And Michigan as well. Right on, comrades. So, yeah, Battle Creek, Michigan.
Too. Go to handsoffuhuru.org, and this is another way that you can help to contribute to the Legal Defense Fund.
Right on. Thank you, comrades. And thank you, Chairman, for that overview. And we are going to now, go to as we have said, the reason why we are all here on today, we want to honor and really take a moment to honor and, bring together these two very courageous comrades who were both born out of, as we've just laid out, very brutal terroristic attacks by the colonial state on their parents because they fought for African people. And we are so fortunate that these comrades have, as we have said, survived these brutal attacks and are out here on today, keeping alive the struggle for the African, freedom struggle from generation to generation until, as we say, until victory is won. Yes, go ahead, Comrade Lisa.
Yes, and it's also so important for us to link all of these struggles because we know that ever since we were brutally brought to this illegally occupied territory called the United States, that the government has been at war with our community. And this colonialist system has inflicted every kind of brutality on our people, no matter what, but we have always stood up and resisted. And it is so important for us to understand that that is going on right up until today. So we really wanted to link these struggles here. And we also really wanted to recognize and to let the families of the Move 9 and Fred Hampton and so many of our other revolutionaries in the struggle, that we stand on their shoulders and we are continuing this struggle. And it is so important for us to understand that these attacks on Omali Yeshitela, the Uhuru movement on July 29, 2022, and the subsequent arrest on those bogus, scurrilous charges are a continuation of COINTELPRO and the United States' brutal system of colonialism to subvert African people, to tie us down and to remove our voice. But we say hell no to that. That is not going to happen. We will continue to stand with the chairman, who has spent an entire lifetime fighting for the liberation of Africa and African people everywhere and building programs and institutions. And when you do that right there, that's going against the United States. They don't want that. They're about oppression and brutality.
Yes. Uhuru, comrade. And, just speaking on that, we will never, as has been said, forget the heroic, Black Panther chairman, chairman of the state of Illinois, Fred Hampton, who was only 21 years old when the colonial state came at 4 a.m. on December 4th, 1969 in Chicago to brutally assassinate him, along with Comrade Mark Clark. And, as you said, with Sister Akua right there in the bed next to him, right after, Fred Hampton Jr. Fred Hampton Sr. was drugged by a police agent. And so we want to salute Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. and Sister Akua and Jerry. And we want to show a short clip, which we're going to pull up. So here it is, and we'll go ahead and play that clip now. Uhuru.
We got to start getting out there with the people. And a lot of times we think we're better than the people. That's an insult and that's criminal. Think you're better than the people. We got to get together and learn where it's at. It's going to take a lot of hard work. Education for children is something else. You ought to dig on it. Every sister in this audience. Now, every sister in this audience ought to get themselves together and come on down and help us with that Breakfast for Children program. You ought to come down and help feed them children in the morning. We have Breakfast for Children because we teach the people, through practice, through observation and participation, that people can be fed free. That's the people thing. Socialism is the people. You're afraid of yourself. If you're afraid of socialism, you're afraid of yourself.
Uhuru, thank you for that. And we will also never forget the legacy of the Move family in Philadelphia, who adopted the name Africa and followed the teachings of John Africa. And they were about the liberation of African people, and they were brutally attacked by the state. The first time it happened was in August 1978, in which I believe it was 9 people were arrested, and they were sentenced to like 40 to 100 years. And 2 of those people were Mike Africa Jr.'s parents, Mike Africa Sr. and Debbie Africa. And then in May of 1985, Philadelphia bombed the residence of the Move family, and at least 11 children and adults were killed. They literally dropped a bomb which burnt down their home, but not just burnt down their home, they allowed it to burn the whole block in Philadelphia. They sat by and let it burn. And Mike Africa and Debbie Africa, they were both at least sentenced to over 40 years. And Mike Africa Jr. was born inside of a jail cell. And we are going to have a short clip which will show us a little bit about that. Thank you.
It's kind of surreal, that I'm sitting on the porch, of my son, and his family, and my wife's here. And, you know, a couple hours ago, I was sitting in jail cell, so it's, you know, I'm trying to take it all in and get my bearings.
Everything that our family has worked for, so hard for, it's like the example is here. We're home. And, well, two of us are home at least, you know, that John Africa's revolution is still going on, and, you know, it's just going to continue to go on. And little by little, it's still happening. And there's still a lot of work to be done. And we just intend to move forward with it.
Uhuru, comrades. Well, yes, just really looking forward to inviting our comrades, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. To come on camera, as well as Comrade Mike Africa Jr. We are going to take a moment to introduce both of you right now, and just wanted to really appreciate the opportunity to share those videos, which does not capture everything, but we are here on today. So I have the great pleasure of introducing Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., who is an American or an African political activist who is the only child of Black Panther leader Fred Hampton, and he is the president and chairman of Prisoners of Conscience Committee and the Black Panther Party's Cub. Hampton is the son of Black Panther Party leader Fred Hampton and his fiancee Deborah Johnson, known as Akua Njeri. Johnson also for over 8 months, who was pregnant when, as we said, Fred Hampton Sr. was killed by the police in 1969, the raid which occurred 25 days before he was born. He was given the name Alfred Johnson at birth, and his mother had it legally changed to Fred Hampton Jr. when he was 10 years old. Fred Hampton Jr. graduated from Tilden High School and sporadically studied journalism at Olive Harvey College, and he worked part-time as an auto mechanic while speaking at rallies organized by the National People's Democratic Uhuru movement during the late 1980s. And in 1993, he was taken behind bars after a firebombing a Korean grocery store, a controversy that sparked an aftermath in 1992 nationwide protests after the acquittal of the Los Angeles Police Department's officers who beat Rodney King. Even though Hampton claimed that he was home all day, authorities reported that he had been seen throwing this Molotov cocktail into Korean businesses, fashions and, jewelry stores. So that year, he was sentenced to 18 years in prison for the quote unquote act of terrorism, getting parole only on September 14, 2001. Defending him, of course, was his mother, Sister Akua Njeri, and called it a bogus charge and said, "Where was the fire? Where was the fire? Who was injured? Nobody." And even if he did it, 18 years, we maintain Fred did not do it. And now he serves as the president and chairman of Prisoners of Conscience Committee and the Black Panther Party's Party Cubs, and a spoken word artist, a poet, and organizes events highlighting race relations and law enforcement. Working behind and beyond prison walls, Fred Hampton Jr. works to organize the Black community and expose brutal prison conditions. He was associated with his father's biopic, the Judas and the Black Messiah, and a consultant for years, and director Shaka King met him several times before production and even visited his childhood home in Maywood. In fact, this is part of the bio. It was an intense conversation about the script and the story once it lasted for 10 to 12 hours. But we're going to hear from Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. So I want to just welcome you up on here, comrade, and just make sure that I can see you here. There you go. All right, Uhuru. So, and then Sister Lisa is going to read the bio for Brother Mike Africa, and then we'll go ahead and hear from both of you.
Uhuru, and it gives me an honor to introduce Mike Africa Jr. Mike Africa Jr. is a member of the MOVE organization. He is a motivational, resilient speaker. He pushes his revolutionary message and his dynamic stage performances, mixing music in his oratory. Mike is the son of 2 political prisoners who were sentenced to 100 years in prison. He was secretly born in a Philadelphia prison following a police raid on his family's home. As an infant, He was taken from his mother and placed in an orphanage where he was physically and mentally abused for 11 days before getting rescued by his aunt. At age 6, he witnessed the smoke in the air from a police bomb that was dropped on his family's home, killing his uncle, his cousin, and 9 members of the Move family members, including 5 of the children he suffered in the orphanage with. At age 13, Mike began using his music to raise awareness about his experiences to gain justice for his family. On June 16, 2018, after 40 years in prison, Mike finally got his mother released. 4 months later, on October 23rd, he successfully gained his father's release. Currently, Mike travels the world as a speaker, telling his incredible story and inspiring others with his powerful messages to never give up. Mike has shared his stage with the likes of Mark Lamont Hill, Tarana Burke, Ramona Africa, Dead Prez, Danny Glover, Michael Franti, Public Enemy, Rage Against the Machine, and countless others, tackling issues such as mass incarceration, police brutality, climate change, and many other profound issues of the day. And even more recently had to tackle the issue about how the medical system, the hospital, stole the bones of his family members. And so he had to tackle that, as well as many of the other Move families. Mike Africa Jr., we welcome you here. Uhuru. If you're speaking, you're muted.
Oh, I'm speaking and I'm muted. Okay, there we go. So, Uhuru, so we're going to, I'm going to turn it over now to both of our special guests. Thank you so much, comrades, for being here. We're going to start with Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., give you an opportunity to, speak to the people and give us some background on what happened and the impacts, and who your parents were as revolutionaries, and then we're going to turn it over to Brother Mike Africa and just open it up. So Uhuru.
Right on. Uhuru, on the move, free them all. I'm Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. I'm honored and humbled to be here. I'm the International Chairman of the Black Panther Party Cubs. I've said often from the eyes of the state, I'm a 3-strike offender. 1, just for simply being African. 2, for being the son of Chairman Fred Hampton and also of Uhuru and Jerry, formerly known as Deborah Johnson. And 3, for continuing to fight for the liberation of our people. And we take the position that the state or any entity considers that a crime, so be it. I would just flash back on some things, just with Chairman Omali Yeshitela was speaking, as well as going with the reading of Mike Africa's Jr.'s bio. I recently had some conversations with some colleagues of mine in which they were talking about the discussion of Tupac, and some people said they were drawing a correlation by him. About his mother, Afeni Shakur, being pregnant with him, and just out of jail. And I said, and I was drawing a correlation with Park to myself, Mike Africa Jr. And I kind of reference that those jail cells like our maternity wards. And I've said in many cases that my birth certificate came close to being my death certificate. Saying that to say that, to go back, that December the 4th, well, prior, let me just, I don't want to draw any foregone conclusions. I mentioned I'm the son of Chairman Fred Hampton, also of Uhuru and Jerry. Deputy Chairman Fred was the Deputy Chairman of the state of Illinois, in fact, which was the largest chapter of the Black Panther Party. Under his tenure, a lot of the such survival programs the Black Panther Party had, such as the free breakfast program, they fed a minimum of 3,500 children a week. It was Chairman Fred who authored the Rainbow Coalition, contrary to what a lot of misinformation people have been given, and he done it in a city that was, and for all practical purposes, to some extent, remains to be one of the top segregated cities in the country. He was armed with a politic that was able to grapple with the race and the class contradiction. So I say the race and the class contradiction, because not only winning such forces as the Young Patriots, a group of poor whites who at one point were so reactionary they were wearing Confederate flags on their jackets. One of the Young Lords, a Puerto Rican organization, Alicia Cha-Cha Jimenez, certain points of unity. and many of what we refer to as the unpoliticized street tribes. That's a term that we use as opposed to referring to them as gangs. We politicized such forces as the formerly known Devil Disciples, who got up publicly and said, we now renounce as we know as the Black Disciples due to the political education we received from Chairman Fred and the Black Panther Party. Black Stone Rangers, who took more of a nationalistic stance, became a Black Peace Stone Nation, and was able to flip the script on such tactics with the U.S. government had approached the Vice Lords, a major street organization, and told them they would get them 16th Street, a portion of West Side Chicago, if the Black Panther Party was not even open a free medical center on 16th Street. Chairman Fred was able to flip the script and win these forces at certain points of political unity. And even at the government's own account, they say that during the tenure of the Black Panther Party, it was a record low to what they refer to as Black on Black crime. He was targeted even prior to that. In fact, his FBI file started before he was chairman. In fact, when he was about 13 or 14 years old, when he took the junior NAACP from about 7 to 300 members in 7.5 month time period. In fact, the DC Bureau of the FBI thought it was a typo. He can't be that young. He was given trumped up charges, a number of trumped up charges. But one case in particular was the infamous ice cream truck robbery. In fact, the Good Humor ice cream truck robbery. The state issued him, and they say he supposed to took $71 worth of ice cream and gave it to the children. And which his response was that even though they made me out to be a thief, they made me out to be a Robin Hood type of thief. They still showed the true nature of a panther, given to the people. I kind of smiled when I thought when I was mentioning that, because I'm just thinking back, like even how the ongoing impact of that. Because as a child growing up, my mother, impressed upon us, even when it was not popular to have a discussion with the Black Panther Party. To this day, we still cannot patronize Good Humor ice cream truck. Our flashback as a child, when ice cream truck would come down the street, other children would say, come running for the ice cream, but I had to make sure that it wasn't Good Humor. And that, so to be able to maintain that line, to this day. He was, back to the case of Chairman Fred being locked up, he was sent to the infamous Stateville prison. And at that time, they would call you by a prison number. And his only response, if he responded, was, I'm Deputy Chairman Fred Hampton, Illinois Chapter Chairman of the Black Panther Party. They deemed him to be what they referred to as criminally mentally insane for refusing to answer the number, and they transferred him to the infamous Menard. When he got to Menard in 1969, which ironically, I was there in 1999, I met some of those same prisoners that was there when he got there. And the deal was for them to do an attack on Chairman Fred for the administration. And when Chairman Fred hit the prison yard, he politicized them to the point that they told the warden, the prison warden, we on Chairman Fred's security. Anything happened to him, we holding you accountable for. He was what we would say is unleashed on appeal bond August 13th, 1969, still with that revolutionary fervor, if not more. Continue to organize. In fact, a lot of people say he was going harder. Fast forward to one of our September 11 stories. And I say one of our September 11 stories because we define August 8th, 1978, in Philadelphia, May 13th, 1985 on Osage Avenue, February 21st, 1965. We define these as the days of our September 11 stories. In fact, we say African people, we are the OVs, not the OGs, but the original victims of terrorism. But December the 4th, 1969, the federal government, via the Chicago Police Department, armed with a floor plan so detailed, they even knew where a pack of cigarettes might be at. They came in Illinois Bell phone trucks. Prior to this, members of Illinois Central Committee of the Black Panther Party were, quote unquote, arbitrarily sent out of town. They were given trumped up charges with exorbitant bonds for what was seen was just a pistol case. But all this was done to make sure the Chairman Fred was isolated. The YMCA had took a group of young brothers who done unofficial security for Chairman, 12, 13 years old, sent them out of town on a winter retreat. The federal government was armed with a floor plan of the apartment so detailed that they would say they knew a pack of cigarettes, pack of cool cigarettes might probably be at inside the apartment. They came Illinois Bell phone trucks, they blocked the entire block off, moved a surgical strike, and it was just brought to my attention a few years ago that they cut off all the lights on the west side of Chicago, the entire west side of Chicago. They came, they put mattresses up in people's windows and moved people, evacuated people outside their homes. This is something I'm just be correlated to that if I was to tell you these details, automatically we would think like, some across seas, some big counterinsurgency, which was counterinsurgency, but right here, because a lot of times we are taught to believe that Black people are not worthy of being surveillance, let alone being assassinated. But the reality is the brunt of the COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program, is directed to the Black Panther Party. And they pulled out other documents outside the home. They came in, they immediately shot and assassinated 22-year-old defense captain, Mark Clark, who's out of Peoria, Illinois. The police continued to shoot again. Be mindful, they were armed. They knew where they were coming. They had a floor plan, and the majority of the shots were directed to the bedroom of Chairman Fred and his now widow, but then wife, his comrade. And other occupants were saying, "Stop shooting! Stop shooting! We have a pregnant sister in here." And they hit other occupants inside the apartment. My mother-to-be literally felt the shells coming through the mattress. I said his wife and comrade just turned 19 years old days prior. She covered down over Chairman Fred. She covered down over him. And the police, they came in the room and they pulled out. You can see some of the photos. That's Chairman Fred's bathrobe, his robe, his slippers that she has on. There was no blood on it, but they noticed that he hadn't hit. We don't think he was hit then, but they pulled out of the room, and Chicago police placed a revolver to her stomach. And man, she was 8.5 months pregnant at the time. Till she better not run. And when I speak about it, I draw the correlation to that of a prenatal doctor giving prenatal care. And I say that the first piece of steel that I ever came into contact with, as opposed to Dr. Stethoscope, was Chicago Police Department's revolver. And Chicago police can be overheard going in the room saying he's barely alive, he'll barely make it now. And they fired several more shots, subsequently the fatal shots to assassinate Deputy Chairman Fred. Cool and Jerry, Deborah Johnson was mindful to be on point of trying to remember faces, and she walking, they taken out, and other surviving, Deputy Minister of Health, Doc Satchel, China Down.
Uhuru, 1 minute.
Okay, right on. And they took them out, and I'm just flashback on those details. I'm flashback when we was on the set of Judas and Black Messiah. They filmed that scene actually December the 4th, on December 4th, and I'm a mother comrade making sure that the sister Dominique Fishback, who portrayed her, to be cautious again, no cry, no show, no emotions when the pigs that vamped. And I was born subsequently 25 days later, December 29th, 1969, and that was my first contact with the U.S. justice system. I'll conclude with that for right now, because I think the time is limited right now.
Uhuru, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., if there's anything else you wanted to add to, please take the time. But I did want to, I know that we're going to expand, but just really want to salute just your, just really giving us an opportunity to understand just the significance of the political leadership of Deputy Chairman Fred Hampton, and just the ways in which he had a clear understanding of the colonial question as well, and who we were up against, and bringing in all forces to, direct our aggression and our rightful, fight back against the state and not each other, and all the ways in which these tactics were used to have it look otherwise. And I know that there's a lot more that we can share. So I hope maybe you will even share more too as we continue. So thank you so much. Right on. Uhuru. All right. So go ahead, Sister Lisa.
Oh, yes, and now we will hear from Mike Africa Jr., but I just have to say, when you hear all of these little personal details that I wasn't even aware of, like that they put a gun to his mother's stomach, it's just really profound and somewhat emotional. But of course, I'm a revolutionary. We're strong. But Mike Africa Jr., please. Thank you. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Move, free them all that. Just listening to Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. talk about the way his father and his mother and Mark Clark and the Black Panther Party was attacked and sieged in that way, it just takes my breath away. You know, I think that if not for what happened on December 4th, 1969, I think that the police in Chicago, they left a certain amount of evidence in that house that made them a little bit more diligent about the way they attack other organizations. Because as Chairman explained, the diagram was so detailed you could see a pack of cools on, right? When they attacked our house on August 8th, 1978 in Philadelphia, they didn't leave that building standing. They tore it down and leveled the entire house. You know, it's like they get better at their assaults. They learn how to be more brutal. They learn how to be more deadly. The MOVE organization was founded by John Africa. John Africa was a Black man from Philly, and he had a single mission: protect life. And he started an organization to carry out that mission. When we say life, we're talking about people, animals, and the environment. And because of that belief system, because of that interest, because of that mission, MOVE was attacked the same way Chairman Fred Hampton and the Black Panther Party was attacked in the 60s and in the 70s, and the same way the Uhuru movement is being attacked right now. When you have a group of people or a person, a singular person even, that's talking about making the change and that's contrary to the system's setup, you're going to have a fight on your hands, especially when you have the ability to enact that change, when you have the ability to move the people with your example. And that's what we're seeing right now. Having the belief system of life and fighting against injustice and fighting to free people from unjust jail sentences, MOVE was attacked. And MOVE is not a pacifist organization. John Africa said, if a policeman hit you, hit him back. If they hit you with a club and you got one, you hit them back with that club. If they come at you with fists, fight them with fists. Whatever they got, match them. And in some cases, you need to have superior, and when the police would come and attack MOVE, and MOVE would fight back, that led up to the police making a decision. We just got to shut them down. And that's why they attacked our house August 8th, 1978. When those people were arrested, my mother and my father and the other members, when they were arrested and put in prison, they were given sentences of nearly 1,000 years. Nearly 1,000 years. My mother gave birth to me, as you heard, in the jail cell. And my grandmother came to pick me up, and she nurtured me, and she fed me, and she took care of me. And then when I was around 13, when I worked and to try to come back to the organization. When after the assault on MOVE in 78, the other MOVE members that were still in the street were fighting to get the prisoners released. And there were politicians who said that they knew that MOVE was innocent. They said they were community members. There were people that were not friends of MOVE at all, saying that they know that MOVE is innocent and they don't belong in prison. There's no way that they shot that police officer. Even if they did, 9 people going to jail for nearly 1,000 years for the death of one cop is unconstitutional, is extreme, it's an abuse of power. And and MOVE members fought about it. They complained about it. They complained so much they had bullhorns, and they were yelling and screaming from the bullhorns at 2 a.m. on Christmas morning, waking people up, talking about it, telling the neighbors, this is an injustice. If you want us to shut up, then you need to go and help us get our people out of prison. It's us today, but it could be you tomorrow. And that protest was so intense move was so intense with the protesting that the city of Philadelphia felt that they need to put a permanent end to MOVE. And the way that they did that is they flew a helicopter over our house and dropped a bomb. Rather than release the people, rather than free people that even the judges that sentenced them admitted they didn't know who killed this officer. Their idea was to drop a bomb. And when they dropped that bomb, they killed 11 people. Ramona Africa was the lone adult survivor. A little boy named Birdie Africa, he was 13 years old. He and I were in that orphanage together in 1980. He survived, but Ramona was arrested and she was charged with riot and arson and put in prison for 7 years. In 1992, when she came home from prison, I had a fight with my grandmother. I was one of these bad little kids that didn't respect rules, right? I don't know what it is. It's in my blood. I didn't respect rules. Grandma said, stay off, don't go off the block. What did I do? I went off the block. Grandma said, don't. She said, don't do a lot of things. And one particular day, you know, me and my friends were out. You know how the adults say, when the street lights come on, come in the house. Well, me and my friends, we got our wrist rockets and we shot the street lights out. And grandma said, she said, don't go off the block. I went off the block, and one night I came home. It was late. It wasn't real late, but it was late enough where grandma had been looking for me for a while. And and grandma was so agitated by my disobedience that she did this old school 1950s ass whipping thing on me. It was bad. It looked like a professional fighter fighting an amateur. It wasn't cool. I got beat up, and as I'm sitting there trying to avoid crying, I wanted to look. I'm 13 years old now. I'm strong. You can't just do this stuff to me. And she beat me up, and I tried to grab her arms, and to let her feel my strength. And she said, "Oh, you want to fight?" She snatched her arms away, and then she said, "Put them up." I'm telling you, 1950s grandma is different than this 2023 era. I don't know. So as I'm sitting there trying not to cry, my mother called on the phone. The phone rang, and it was my mother. And my grandmother was explaining. She said, "This boy is so unprincipled, and he doesn't listen. And I'm trying, but he is going to force me to have a nervous breakdown." She said he needs some principle. And I then she handed me the phone, and I was talking to my mom, and I told Mom, I said, "Mom, Mona coming home. Mona's coming home." I said, "Will you get a chance to talk to her?" She said, "I can talk to her." I said, "Can you ask her to come and pick me up when she come home?" She said, "I'll ask her." I said, "Do you think she'll come?" She said, "If I ask her to come, she'll come." So on May 13th, Ramona was scheduled to come home from prison. She had served her 7 years. Now I'm watching TV. Mona is coming. They got Mona scheduled to come home in a stretch limo. They got all of these national, syndicated national talk shows that she's scheduled to be on. And I'm kind of thinking, like, you know what? She ain't got no time for me. May 13th, she came home from prison. On May 14th, she knocked on my door at like 8 o'clock in the morning and said, "You ready?" And I wasn't ready, because I didn't think that I was that important. You ever see the TV shows when the kids are trying to get ready? They rush in, they run up the steps, and they open the dresser drawer, and then they start throwing clothes. That's how I was. Put my clothes on, and then I ran down the steps. I jumped. I think I might have skipped. If it was 12 steps, I might have skipped about 11 of them. And then I came back, and I was on the move ever since. And then I watched her. I traveled with her all around the country. We went from Philly to California and all in between, and from the north to the south. And I watched her talk about the injustice of my people being in prison, and I didn't know these things. So I'm as she's educating the audience about who MOVE is and what MOVE history is, I'm learning it too. And then in 2016, Ramona got sick. 2017, she had a stroke. Early 2017, in late 2017, she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And she told me, she said, Michael, I can't do this work anymore. She said, you're going to have to take over. I said, I can't do this without you. She said, yes, you can, because you must. She said, you have plenty of move belief. You have the people behind you. They will support you. She said, and you can do this. So I said, okay, if I do this, it's going to be a little bit different than the way y'all did it. She said, that's fine with me. She said, because I trust you. I said, okay. I remember the move people from Osage Avenue screaming, y'all gonna let our people go. They were screaming from the bullhorns, you gonna let our people go. I mean, they was cursing at these police officers. They was talking about to the people, to the city, to the politicians, to Wilson Good, the black mayor, you gonna let our people go. And I just remember, like, there was so much energy behind that. And I used that energy to talk to the people.
1 minute.
And talking to the people, we had a couple of lawyers that were willing to support. We had to kind of go outside of the city to get lawyers that were able to, like, kind of work without the fog of the Philadelphia and move drama. And on June 16th, 2018, after 40 years of my people being in prison, I went to the prison and brought my mother home. 4 months later, I went to the prison and brought my father home. And we've been moving ever since. They hit the ground running, and we've been moving ever since.
Uhuru. Wow. Black power on the move.
On the move.
Yes.
The move.
Wow. Uhuru, comrades, I just really want to appreciate just that opening, and just, there's a lot that we want to continue to unpack, because this is all happening, like, in the context of what we are experiencing right now with these raids and these attacks, as well. But just one thing I just wanted to say was just the importance of MOVE and the Black Panther Party in terms of, exposing the state. And just a few things, just going back to the images that were shown on the screen, just the power of the people, because these, the story that was told about all these shots that were coming out of the building, speaking of what happened with, Deputy Chairman Fred Hampton, and, but the community, right, went out to look and to, actually expose what had happened was that, hundreds of bullet holes going in, and the only one coming out was, was discharged after Comrade Mark Clark was also assassinated. And then even what you were exposing, with the Comrade Mike around the protests, right? The constant protesting. And again, the people, it's about the people. And the only way that, and this is something that the chairman had raised, was that, these colonial powers, right, can attack each other in their own ways. But when the people just speak out against the truth, that is a real threat. And so I just really want to salute, just the work that you two are continuing to carry on, which we do want to also, hear more about as well. So Comrade Lisa.
Oh, exactly.
The chairman is also trying to come back on as well. Uhuru.
Oh, definitely. And I just want to also just commend these two warrior brothers. So inspirational. I draw so much strength from you. And one of the things that I have really appreciated, and I've had the chance to be in the company of both of you, and you are so connected to the people. And that is just incredible. It's like there's no separation between you and the people, and it's so appreciated. So again, I just want to commend you. When I hear about, the personal details, I'm just in awe. And we're going to bring our chairman back on. I know he will talk more about this, because as Sister Mwesi has said, it's so important for us to connect these struggles. One of the things that strikes me every time I hear the chairman talk about this is that when they raided his apartment with that violent raid, or his residence, I should say, with he and his wife, that he said he thought he he thought about Chairman Fred Hampton. So anyway, Brother Chairman,
Yes.
please.
Uhuru. And while we're waiting for the chairman to come back on, and you know, I just want to give an update, Sister Lisa, because we have a lot of donations coming in, and I want to make sure that we can, you know, and especially donations that were coming in, particularly during the presentations by Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. and Comrade Mike Africa. So I just want to thank a few people really quickly. I want to thank Kafira. I want to thank Penny, Zaid for your pledge. We want to thank Leah, Charlotte, as well as for who became a monthly sustainer, Jackson, Michael, Ingrid, as well as Nayindu, Maureen, Raya, Ruby, Mark, and Dwayne. And we are at about $502 raised so far of our goal. So I just really want to salute everybody who has already made donations and who went to handsoffuhuru.org/donate, because you know, as we said, this is very important fight back. And just want to salute everybody, and we're going to hear more shortly. But I see the chairman is on, and you know, Chairman, as we, you know, also, you know, would love to have you be a part of this as well. And one of the things that I do want to also see if comrades Mike, Africa, and Chairman Fred also want to share at some point too, is just the current work that you are also doing, as Sister Lisa said, being connected to the people, and, you know, the preservation of the Hampton House, which is something that we know is also happening, and also the Move House as well. So Uhuru Chairman and Uhuru comrades, we can just continue to open this up. We have a little bit of time left.
Uhuru, thank you so much. I want to really try to be expeditious and not try to be extremely redundant. I just want to express my appreciation to these young comrade leaders who are continuing this struggle. It has not ended because our oppression has not ended. And there are tendencies, even within our own movement, and certainly by forces who often call themselves anti-imperialists and communists and all other kinds of things. There are tendencies to really underestimate and under-recognize the significance of the African Revolution inside this country and other places. But I would remind people that John Mitchell, I think, who was then the Attorney General of the United States, I think said that before the end of 1969, that they would have destroyed the Black Panther Party. And of course, one of the most important things that happened at the end of 1969 was the murder of Fred Hampton. And that was a critical thing, because 1969 is the same time that the FBI had determined that the Black Panther Party was the greatest threat to the internal security of the United States of America. That's not a small thing. They didn't say that about some other force, et cetera, talking about Black people and our significance and the role that we played. I think it's important to understand that. We went to Philadelphia, the African People's Socialist Party, following the 1985, I think it was, bombing there. And we were always concerned about that. We remember 1978, the pictures that came out of that, where they charged these Africans with killing a cop. And the cops were shooting down into the basement where the MOVE forces were. The cops were shooting down into the basement and get shot in the back of the head. And so for that to have happened, the cop would have had to been standing with his back to them, shooting backwards, and then the people would have had to be shooting, you know, up at the cop. So it was obviously, you know, such a fraudulent charge. And it didn't matter that it was a fraudulent charge, because it's the power of the state, the colonial state, that was the thing. I think it's important for us to recognize that, well, one of the things I want to say is that we held the first African Liberation Day demonstration in Philadelphia as a consequence of that move, that attack. We put out a slogan that reinforcements are on the way. And we did that because it's really important for us to recognize that if they can get away with doing that kind of stuff and there's no response from the people, that if we allow that to happen without responding to it, then that's going to be a critical problem for us. They killed Fred Hampton. When they killed Fred Hampton, we didn't see, you know, the white left or the big anti-imperialist movements anywhere coming and defending and condemning what had happened. There was no massive move, but something like a few weeks later, when you had that shooting in Kent State, where these white students were killed by the National Guards, they thought there was going to be a revolution in this country because of the uprising among white students and things like that. We have to change that, and we have to force what considers itself to be a left to recognize the significance of the struggle of African people in this country. It's been a historic struggle. It's been a struggle that has defined what freedom is in this country. Has been the struggle of African people, and Fred and the MOVE forces were a part of that, a critical and conscious part of that. I wanted to make that statement, and we talk about December 4th, 1969, but a week later, after that, of course, they attacked the Panther Party in Los Angeles, California, and ran into a fierce kind of resistance because they were December 4th, awakened everybody that they're coming, full force against us. And so they were ready when they came at them in Los Angeles. They attacked the Panther office. So it was a massive kind of shootout that occurred there. I just think it's important for us to understand that. And the fact is that they come for us. It's really important to recognize that they come for us, even if they didn't know exactly what our names are. When they attacked my home in St. Louis, and they've done some of the same things, St. Louis, they've done the same thing, St. Petersburg, Florida, they came 300 strong in 1996. So as you know, Fred, I think you know about that. And so this war is a part of a continuum against our movement. But who do they come for? They come for the advanced forces. It is we who stand between them and the masses of our people. It becomes necessary for them to come through us to get to the people. And I think it's really important for us to recognize that while we have to defend, the Uhuru 3, why we have to oppose what happened there, why we have to defend Gail Walker and the forces who are connected with the struggle right there in Atlanta, Georgia, and the Tampa 5. We have to defend them because they come for those of us who are the advanced forces, because they have to come through us to get to the people. And that's the critical question. That's why we are so important, so significant. That's why we have to do everything we can to defend this movement. And this is a critical moment for us. For us, it's a critical moment. It's a critical moment. It's a system that's in a state of serious contradictions, and the social fabric of this country is fraying every place. Everybody can see that. I mean, where white people are climbing the walls of the Capitol, defecating on the seats, and chasing the vice president through the hall, talking about hanging him and stuff like that. It's an extraordinary moment in history. It makes this beast much more dangerous. But the critical factor here always has been the struggle that's being led by African people with democracy. The thing that kept this country from going to fascism in the 1950s was not a fight against fascism, but it was Fannie Lou Hamer. It was fight for rights of Black people. That's the thing that kept the system open, fighting for the liberation, fighting the colonized people, fighting for rights. And that's what we have to win people to participate with. So I just want to express my appreciation to these brothers for your courage, because you were not supposed to be courageous if you lived, and neither of you were supposed to live. Neither of you were supposed to live, born in a prison cell, and then born subsequent to the murder of your father and the near murder of you while you were in bed. But this is, you were not supposed to be in this struggle. It was supposed to terrorize you. It was supposed to, if you survived, you were not supposed to be struggling. You are here. And that makes you an extraordinary example for everybody else. They have to come through us to get to the people. And that's why we have to be stalwart and firm and make this struggle. So I just want to express my appreciation to the two of you. And Fred, if you say something wrong, you're just going to have to get out the car. You got to get out the car. Yeah.
Oh, you're muted, Chairman Fred.
Oh, right on. Okay, you know, yes, indeed. Hey, right on, Chairman.
Reminder, I don't know if she remembers that or not.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we'll do. Right on.
Yeah. I slept in your bed when you were in prison and what have you. You know what I mean? Yeah. And yeah, that's another story.
Yeah. Man. Yes, indeed.
Lisa, were you gonna? Go ahead, comrades. I just want to thank you, Chairman. I think that's really just important to just frame where we are right now. And I wanted to see if there's any, thoughts or any closing thoughts or just further remarks that comrades want to make. And I just really want to emphasize what the chairman said about being the advanced forces. They have to go through you to get to the people. And I know that there's much work that both of you comrades are still doing. So just anything else that you wanted to share, Uhuru.
Yeah, well, there's definitely something that I want to share to the people that's watching this, to the people that are in the audience here attending. I want to say that it is really important to support with funds because the Uhuru movement has been around for a long time. It's a pillar in the activism community, and not just the activism community, but a lot of people benefit from the work that the Uhuru movement does. I was in St. Louis and I saw the stage and I saw the community activities and I saw these things that the Uhuru movement, the house, I saw the house when it didn't have a floor. And then I saw the house packed with people. There's work that's being done. And this work, your donations, your support is what helps this work get done. And it's a heavy lift to do this work anyway. But the donations that you guys give makes it a lighter lift. We really appreciate it, and it's necessary. And also, it's not just for the Uhuru movement. The work that the Uhuru movement does is not just for the Uhuru movement. Omali Yeshitela he good. You know what I mean? The work that he doing is for you too. It's for your sons and daughters. It's for your family. It's for the community. And so, it's really important to support and donate and spread the word and raise awareness around this situation, because as we talked about, as I was saying earlier about what Move was telling the people, it's Move today, but it could be you tomorrow. Just recently, Tamir Rice's the anniversary killing of Tamir Rice was a few days ago.
Yeah.
And Tamir Rice wasn't standing on no street corner protesting. He wasn't selling drugs. He wasn't doing anything except playing in the park. And the police rolled up on him and didn't even get out of their car, didn't even stop the car before they pulled the trigger and took his life. And, we have to listen to and hear and watch the tears roll down the face of Samaria Rice because the state took the life of her baby. And there's so many other people. So the work that the Uhuru movement is doing is raising awareness about these issues so that we can make change, so that we can have a safer community for everybody. So please donate and feel proud about that donation and tell your friends about it. This is like church. When you go to church and you pull out money for the pastor, look, that money goes towards supporting something. This money right here goes towards supporting freedom and liberation. So please donate, get on the monthly sustainer list, and just keep it coming, because it's needed. It's important for this work to continue like this.
Uhuru, Brother Mike African. I just want to ask you one question in a moment, and also Brother Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., because I know that there are things that you're also doing. We had the chance to be in Philadelphia together on Mamiya's birthday, but you were talking about Osage Avenue, being able to, I think, get the house again. Am I correct about that?
So I was inspired. Totally inspired by Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. because I saw him a few years ago, over the years, working to get the Hampton house back. And my aunt, Louise James, she owned 6221 Osage Avenue, the house that was bombed. She said she wanted her house back. And I didn't know if that was possible because the city took the house from us through eminent domain. And they said, We ain't giving it back. I have copies of letters that the mayor of Philadelphia, Wilson Good, personally sent to every resident that lost their house in the bombing in '85. My Aunt Louise never received one of those letters. So after 30-something years of the police occupying that house and making sure that MOVE never got in it again, there was an opportunity that came up, and I didn't know how it was going to happen. But I said, if Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. could get back to Hampton House, there is possibility here. And I worked, it was like, I'm not a woman, never birthed a baby before, but I've seen it done 4 times. I mean, talking about from start to finish, I've seen it 4 times. It took me 9 months to buy a property in Pennsylvania. Typically takes 45 to 60 days. But because of the obstacles and the hurdles that they put in our way, it took us 9 months. But on January 10th, 2023, I put a down payment on 6221 Avenue.
All right.
And I'm trying to raise money to get that back. But right now, I want all donations to go to Hands Off Uhuru.
And I'm going to use that opportunity to say, go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. So thank you, Comrade Mike, and just, yes, congratulations on that. And because these resources are going to the legal defense, so we have to be able to defend and to keep the Uhuru 3 out of prison, beat them in the court, so that the Uhuru movement can continue to do exactly what you were saying that it does, bring in the resources to the people and putting it back out there for the people. So thank you, and yes, right on, Uhuru. Go ahead, Sister Lisa. We're going, yes.
And I just want to also say that I too have been able to just witness. It has just been, I've been so appreciative of being able to be a part of the Uhuru movement for like the last 12 or 13 years, maybe a little bit longer ago than that. And I know that there have been times when I've heard Chairman Omali Yeshitela talk about something and say, we're going to do this. And not that I doubted him, but I'm like, oh, that's nice. And then the next thing I know, I mean, that's usually my response. The next thing I know, like St. Louis, for example, I remembered when Mike Brown, unfortunately, when that murder happened, it was atrocious. And we were going to be having a conference in Philadelphia, I think about a week later or so. And I remember saying, I got to call the chairman because maybe he might know somebody in Ferguson or something that happened. I'll see him in Philadelphia. I get to Philadelphia, and he's got all these people from Ferguson in Philadelphia because he had already gone. And then I remembered, I think we had decided to have a conference either I think maybe that year, or maybe it was the next year, but we had it in St. Louis. And I think we had rented out a community center or something like that. And, it was nice. I was glad to be able to go. But then the next thing I know, it is the Uhuru House. So within about 2 years, it went from renting a space at a community center to building up the Uhuru House. And I too saw it start from the beginning, and they're like, oh, we're going to be doing this and doing that. So it has just been incredible. And I know that the chairman has the ability to concretize, to have a vision and then to put it into action. And I think that's great. And I know that's one of the reasons why the FBI and the state has attacked him. And so definitely all of your, anything that you can contribute is so important, because we have always been our own liberators. We are the reasons. Our ancestors, the ones who refused to give up, are the reasons that we are here, are the reasons that we have achieved anything in this country, the Black liberation struggle. And we just have to be true to it. So please, anything that you can give, there's no contribution that's too small or too large. No, not too large either. So
can I just say something real quick too?
Yeah, please.
A chairman want to jump in too. I can see.
Go ahead.
We're playing double dutch. Yeah.
I just checked the participants in here, right? There's 72 participants, or there's 60 attendees. 72 divided by 2,000 divided by 72 is 27. If everybody gave $27.
See, there we go, Mike.
We can do that. Can we get $27 from each? At least 27. If you can do more, do more. But $27? Come on, man. Why are we still here? $27 is all it takes. And so who somebody just gave 30? Listen, it's really not that hard, but you know, the work can be a lot easier if we just get the support that we need. And the support is vital. You know, this is how revolutionary work don't pay money. We did 40 years of Prisoner. It's on HBO Max. I still live in the same house that I lived in before they started shooting 40 Years a Prisoner. Nothing changed. I didn't get a new car. I can't afford a new car because we don't make money. We do regular jobs just like everybody else, and we do get donations to do certain programs and campaigns and events. But for the most part, we're just like everybody else, and this work needs to be funded. So we appreciate the donations, but come on, y'all, $27. You're gonna spend way more than $27 on something you don't even need next week. Like $27 goes to a very important cause, and I think everybody should just like pull out $27 right now.
You got Lisa and I. Yep, we just dropped it in the chat, and we're gonna take care of that next. Yeah.
Also, I just want to let you know.
Fred also wanted. Yes, go ahead. I wanted to hear.
No, I'm sorry, brother. Chairman Fred Hampton, please.
No, I just want to jump tag team with some of the energy here. I think Mike Africa Jr. just he took me back. I just left him in Philadelphia recently, and I want people to make sure that we don't that movie in regards to the House. We see everything is political. Everything is political. Words, terms, fashion. Sometimes like politics can be like real estate. The time you make a move, the time of May 13th. I was fortunate enough to be. He called when I talked to him. He wanted to cut out the bag. The movie he's planning on doing. He said, the movie you did at the Hampton House was so inspirational, but to be there with his parents, with the Moore family, on Osage Avenue. For him to turn, I was to walk in that house when he turned that key to that door to walk up in there. His first time going back up in there. I just flashed back on that when he talked about that, and I want to make we don't want to get a wrong narrative. But like I know we're giving out these different details, and it could be demoralizing about the attacks that we talked about. And as Chairman Omali Yeshitela mentioned a minute ago, like he says in regards to like it's not a funeral, you know what I'm saying, but we definitely want to lay out the brutality and attacks that people are subjected to. However, this is to serve as inspiration. Again, these not to sound cliches, but these war stories, it's important to put it in context. Like I say, I think like before we moved to get the Hampton House, I was in West Oakland with Brother Newt, the nephew of Minister U.E.P. Newton. And we were drawing a correlation from different states, from Baltimore to Oakland, California, and talking about how the state has salted the earth in different places where organizers was going on, how they flooded it, the west side of Chicago with dope, how they flooded West Oakland. It was a war tactic, similar to like Napoleon in Egypt, in Africa, when he shot the nose of the Sphinx. That was just a strategic move. And, in fact, we came up to the Hampton House. When we got there, the state had planned on that being a dope house. There were 9 overdoses literally right next door to the house. This is the house that Chairman Fred grew up in. And we took the position that, not on our watch. In fact, they still have my quote in the police station out there at the Hampton House, in which we told them it was a standoff. We said handcuffs and caskets before we abandon it. Again, handcuffs and caskets before we abandon it. And the work we're doing right there now. So the community refrigerators, the Triple C's Children Community Clubs. Invite everybody to go to SaveTheHamptonHouse.org. SaveTheHamptonHouse.org. I'll be remiss if I don't even mention also like. Sometimes I spoke at a funeral last week, and someone said something to the effect that it takes tragedy for Black people to come together. Sometimes that's the case, but Sister Nyota, I reached out to her and I heard I got words about the hands up for Uhuru. I said to touch down, and I'm listening to Chairman Omali speak earlier, and I don't want to go over the campaign, the Free Fred campaign, and when I was snatched up, kidnapped, 1992. And it wasn't a popular position to support the campaign when I was locked up. And I'm flashback to Chairman Omali Yeshitela coming to visit in the infamous Cook County Jail, behind the dialogue we had, between that thick glass, and me being transferred from concentration camp to concentration camp, and not just a campaign just to get me out, but to really draw that correlation from the 60s to the end, the position of political prisoners, and not that I'm a masochist, that we look forward to being in prison or whatever, but it served in a myriad of purposes. And there's a certain amount of freedom in fighting back. And so again, I just want to make sure we clear this narrative that if another state, Minister U.A.P. Newton said, his mother said, that her preacher said, a certain amount of suffering is good for the soul, and so I just want to make sure that these war stories, not these real deal attacks that go down, but people that leave, not leave, but be inspired, right? About the resistance that's happening with it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's good. I was going to remind folk, like our slogan around when they snatched up Fred and jailed him and put him in prison. Our campaign slogan, because you have these petty merchants who they drop in our community and suck the community dry and insult the people on such a regular basis. And so we knew Fred was innocent, and we said he didn't do it. That was that campaign. He didn't do it, but he should have. That was the slogan that we took out there. So it wasn't defeatist at all, ever. And so yeah, it's just really good to see all of you, and in many ways, and it, Fred, there was a very subjective relationship that we had. It was like, before, you became everything that you are now. You were like a son. And anyway, there's a word, it comes out of Nigeria. It's a name, Omawale. Omali is a derivative of the name Omawale. Do you know what Omawale means? It means the child who has returned. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I am not going to call you Omawale because you never went anywhere. And you got to get out the car. See if she remembers that. And I just want to express my appreciation to you, comrades, and the MOVE comrades, and just the tenacity. It's mind-boggling. Just the tenacity, never, 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 never surrendering. Never surrendering, no compromise, no surrender. And that's what we've seen in all these instances. And that's what the enemy never learns, that they can kill individuals and stuff like that. Huey Newton, who Fred just mentioned, we funeralized Huey, and that is to say African People's Socialist Party. And the last public speeches he made, one of them, it just reminds me of Fred's Hampton's statement about killing revolutionaries, but not killing revolution. And he said that you may not have the Black Panther Party, yes, but you have the Uhuru House. And you may not have the Black Panther newspaper, but you have the Burning Spear. So they haven't done anything by crushing one organization. And that's the truth. They win battle after battle, but they never understand that they're losing the war. And it is crisis that drives them to these kinds of extremes where they have to deny even the front that they put forth about shining hill, the shining city on the hill, the beacon of democracy and what have you, where they won't even tolerate a discussion, free speech and things like that. It's they who continue to undermine themselves with these examples that we're talking about. So this is not a funeral. This is a celebration of the continuation of this movement, despite everything they've done historically. They have not been able to stop this struggle, and they won't be able to stop this struggle until our people are free. your mama likes to quote that Panther saying, Fred, what is resistance?
Repression breeds resistance.
Repression breeds resistance. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uhuru, everyone, I just want to say, and I meant to tell you about this, Sister Mwezi, but I do know that the People's Organization for Progress is working on collecting pledges from their members. And I don't know if they've already started donating it, but I got an email with all these pledges that, you know, they will be making. So Sister Mwezi, I forwarded that on to you, but I do know where I see that Larry Adams is pledging 100, Larry Ham 100, Marcella 20, Steve be 100. I forget, but there's an email with the list of pledges, right?
Right
So,
on. Thank you, Comrade.
Comrade Chairwoman, just before you go, I just wanted to say this, that one thing that makes these comrades and everything we've done so dangerous is not just because we complain, but we show alternatives. There is another way. You don't have to just be this way. Just complaining, you know, within the context of the continuing existence of the system, that's something they don't like. But to say that there's an alternative, that's the real issue. That's the real fundamental thing. And even however you think about the MOVE organizations and how they move, they say there's an alternative to this. Black Panther Party, there's an alternative to this. The struggle against colonialism, there's an alternative to living as a slave, and then actually begin to implement and show concretely what that means. That's the thing that's extraordinarily dangerous. Uhuru.
Right on, Chairman. And I think because that, like, as you say, it negates any influence over our future, over our ability to provide for ourselves. And that is what, you know, essentially erases the, you know, necessity for the colonial state. And I think that's just such an important point, Chairman. And I know we are coming to a close for this section, but I just really appreciated what you shared about Omawali, the name, and Omali. And just my understanding is that Omali Yeshitela means umbrella over 1,000 people. And we, you know, have to make sure that if they want to get to you or to any of our comrades, they have to go through the people. And that's what this is about. And I just really want to really salute this profound panel and see if there's any closing thoughts that we have. I just got the note from the timekeeper that we have about 4 minutes left for this section. So any closing thoughts from Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. and Mike Africa. Uhuru.
Uhuru, okay. You okay. Mike, you want to go first? Uhuru, on the move, free them all. I want to reiterate, honored and humbled to be here. Just want to say, coming up, I want to put this out, announce we have an annual event also, Chairman Fred Street Party, which honors the birthday of Chairman Fred Hampton. This will be his 75th birthday, coming on August 30th. We just came back from Louisiana, where he's buried at in Haynesville, Louisiana. Law enforcement shoot his tombstone up every year. They have not forgotten. They annually shoot his tombstone up every year. We had an internal debate on how to deal with it. Some people's position was to put a covering over it. We said, no, let's do the Emmett Till tactic. People need to know this, need to see this. So we put like a little halfway covering casing over it, a bulletproof casing, and over his casket. We just came back from that. It was a difficult trip for myself, Mother Comrade, Cool, and everything. It was a phenomenal trip. So this 75th, August 30th, we say his 75th birthday, we see Chairman Fred lives. And again, we can't talk about struggle in some sort of abstract, nostalgic way, like how bad things used to be. We have to draw that concrete correlation to what's happening, you know what I'm saying, right now. Again, I'm honored and humbled to be here. Let's stay in contact again. I just went down memory lane, just even with the dialogue. And again, I just want to reiterate in regards to it should be inspiring, inspiration. And when Carter Cool and Jerry always that quote, she pushed it, repression breeds resistance.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Right on. So again, we're on the move, free them all.
free them all.
Long live Brother Chairman Fred Hampton. Thank you, Comrade. Mike.
Yeah, my final thought is give. Give. Everybody out there, give. Because you know what? It could be you.
Yeah.
It could be you laying next to your spouse and the FBI, the government sending the people, their goons in to come in and make you try to sit on the curb while they invade your place and tear down your sanctuary and make you feel uncomfortable and got to look over your shoulder and got to feel insecure about the place that you lay your head where your family visits you. You know, we have holidays that people celebrate all the time. People celebrate Christmas and they celebrate Thanksgiving and they celebrate Easter and they birthdays. They have parties for kids. Imagine if your place, your sanctuary was raided, invaded, and you were forced to go outside and you're holding your spouse and you're trying to do the best that you can to protect each other. And you're at the mercy of a government that has no care for you at all. They want to eliminate you. This is who we're dealing with. And the legal defense of the chairman and his family is essential. So give. It could be you.
Uhuru. We're right on.
Yes. Well, no better way to end on that because we are moving into the appeal. And so I think that I just want to again salute this profound panel and comrades. Yes, let's keep in touch and long live the struggles. And we should be excited about this period because we will win and we are winning. So Uhuru, comrades, thank you so much. And yes, right on. And comrade Sister Lisa Davis, I'm forwarding that email over to our fundraising team who is about to come up on camera right now, and they will give an update about where we are with our fundraising goal. But I just want to salute everybody who has been going to handsoffruhuru.org/donate because I see that there are many, many donations coming in and we are getting closer and closer to our goal. So thank you, chat moderator, for putting that in there in the chat. And I see our comrades, I'm sure you're on camera, but I just can't see you. So I do want to invite up our fundraising, a small group of members of our fundraising team. I want to bring up comrades Jesse and Jesse Neville and comrade Amanda, as well as a very special guest and longtime supporter of the movement who will also be in this segment. So, and I do want to mention that Jesse Neville is also one of the Uhuru 3. So I want to salute you as well, comrade, and looking forward to having you on our next section. So this is the chance when your dollar gets to march and work for you, as we said. So go to handsoffruhuru.org/donate. Uhuru.
Uhuru. It's an incredible honor to be on this program today. And I just want to salute. This has been so incredibly powerful and deeply moving and humbling to be a part of this event and to hear from Chairman Omali Yeshitela and comrades Mike Africa Jr. and Fred Hampton Jr. This has been an incredibly powerful event, and we're tasked with talking about how each and every one of you who is participating can donate. But I don't know if we can say much better than Mike Africa Jr. I just really want to appreciate all of the fundraising appeals that Mike Africa made throughout this event and just echo everything that he said. And just again, salute this powerful event. And we've been deeply moved by this program. So many of you have already been moved to contribute, to donate, to take action. And this is where we can bring everybody on board, all the rest of the people who have yet to go ahead and make their $27 contribution, as Mike Africa Jr. said. Now is your chance to do it. And I just want to say that I have the honor, as was mentioned, to be one of the Uhuru 3, along with Penny Hess, the chairwoman of the African People's Solidarity Committee, and Chairman Omali Yeshitela, the primary target of this vicious attack. To be a white person who has been indicted for standing in solidarity with the African Revolution and fighting for reparations to African people. And it is an honor. And I am very honored to have had the opportunity and to still be able to work under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party and to be a part of building this counteroffensive all throughout the world of white people and of everybody who are willing to stand up and defend the right of African people to freedom of speech and to say, hands off Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And this event tonight, we've had the opportunity to bear witness to this incredible legacy of African resistance embodied by the heroic African martyrs and political prisoners who gave their lives to the struggle of their people for freedom, and whose spirit of resistance, undying spirit of resistance, despite the most vicious attempts by the US counterinsurgency, could never be extinguished and continue to live on today through Mike Africa Jr., through Fred Hampton Jr., through Chairman Omali Yeshitela. This program today is overwhelming proof that nothing, no amount of violence, terror, assassination, bogus indictments, and false imprisonment will ever succeed in crushing the movement of African people for their liberation. A just movement, a righteous movement, a movement which we must all be moved to defend and to declare hands off Uhuru. And as a white person in solidarity with Black Power, this program has reaffirmed for me that the true interests of all of humanity are to be found in the struggle of African people to create a world without oppression and exploitation. So again, I salute Fred Hampton Jr., Mike Africa Jr., Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and all African and oppressed peoples everywhere fighting to create a better world for all of humanity. And if you feel the same way, we call on you to go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate, and not just donate today, but donate monthly ongoing. For all the reasons that Mike Africa Jr. laid out so eloquently, we need to fund this campaign and fund this legal defense ongoing and sustain the capacity of Hands Off Uhuru under the leadership of Chair Omali Yeshitela to do the incredibly important work that it is doing. Thanks to all of you, we have already raised $228,395 from our phase 1 goal to raise $277,500. And you can go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate and become a sustainer right now. So I'm going to turn it over to Comrade Amanda, who is also a really important part of our Hands Off Uhuru fundraising committee. Uhuru, Amanda.
Uhuru, Jesse, and just want to echo the salutes for the powerful program so far, and really appreciate Chairman Fred and Mike Africa for being here with us today and your really powerful calls to support this campaign. So now is the time for the program, like Jesse said, where you can contribute. So please go to handsoffahuru.org/donate. And we just want to, really appreciate everyone who has donated so far. I know some people are expressing issues with the website. So if that is happening to you, please email us at donate@handsoffahuru.org. And we will be in touch. We'll be in touch with the website as well to make sure that your support can go through. You can go to the next slide.
Uhuru. Thank you, Amanda. Yeah, I just want to reiterate that I know people are having issues with the Open Collective platform that we're using to collect these donations. So please let us know in the chat if you're facing that, or email info@handsoffahuru.org, and we'll be in touch to get that resolved. So as was mentioned earlier, today our goal is $2,000 in monthly sustainer income. This will go towards ongoing legal expenses because this case is going up against the US federal government colonial state, which has unlimited access to the stolen resources of African and colonized people. And the Uhuru movement cannot, and the Uhuru 3, this campaign cannot be limited by access to resources. So we've got to fight for the capacity to cover any and all expenses that may arise on the legal front to best be able to put in practice the chairman's strategy of putting the FBI on trial, putting the state on trial. So you can fund the fight back and donate today by going to handsoffahuru.org/donate. And we understand that, as the chairman has taught us, the only way this can be won in the courts is if it's won in the streets. So when you sustain this organization, you are also funding the capacity for this campaign to grow 1,000-fold in the world, to take the Hands Off Uhuru campaign on the road to a city near you. Go on tour and plan major national mobilizations, massive distribution of literature, posters, banners, signs, and more. All of this takes resources, and that's what you're contributing to when you go to handsoffahuru.org/donate.
Uhuru. So this is just what the section of the website will look like when you go there. It's going to say sustainer. You can click become a sustainer and you can give anywhere from 5 to, I'm not sure if there is a maximum amount, but this is a really important part of the fight back, where every single month you are supporting this campaign and supporting the right of African people to struggle for their own liberation. You can go to the next slide again. And these are going to be our current sustainers, so you can join this list tonight. We have Parrish, Kim, Bree, Halima, Burton, Chair Moisey, Wendy S., Virginia, Zoya, Jesse, John, Brendan, Kat, Emmanuel, Nathan, MQ, Peg, Teresa, Johan, Thomas, Gail, Lisa, Raya, Felicia, Pete, Taylor, Mensa, Elise, Wendy C., Jim, Leah, Aaron, and Mike. So these are all of our current sustainers, and we just really, really appreciate all of you. You can go to the next slide again. And these are going to be our $1,000 donors or more. So not in any particular order, but we have Janice, Fergie, Ruby, Redbeard, Marcus, Leah again, Charles Inez Barron, Jabez, Maureen, Nicholas, Paul, Renaud, the Partisan Defense Committee, Union Del Barrio, David, Charles, Janet and Pete, Stephen, William, Emmanuel, MQ, Lisa, and Johan, and there have also been many anonymous donors who we really appreciate. Jesse?
Uhuru. And now it's my pleasure and my honor to bring up Comrade Mark Anderson, who will be discussing with just for a few minutes here, and just really want to welcome you, Mark, and in part introduce you as a longtime member of the Solidarity Movement under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, someone who has taken a profound stand of material solidarity in turning over resources to the work of the APSP as reparations, and also one of the largest donors to the Hands Off Uhuru campaign, has made significant contributions to this incredibly important legal defense fund. And we want to deeply salute you, Comrade Mark. We're very excited to have you on. And pictured here is Mark Anderson, who joined the Uhuru movement in 1985. And this is about 4 or 5 years after that. Mark is in the front there holding the sign that says, US out of Somalia, pigs out of the Black community. And this was at a walk against genocide, which was held for decades by the African People's Solidarity Committee beginning in 1979 under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. So we wanted to start with this picture and be able to talk a little bit about this with you, Comrade Mark, because as the chairman pointed out earlier when we were looking at this picture, having you here, seen in this photo at the walk against genocide, holding this sign criticizing US wars and imperialist policy around the world, you are literally walking testimony to the fact that the African People's Socialist Party has been raising these questions, has been charging the United States with genocide, has been demanding reparations, and has been exposing US imperialist war in the US and around the world for way before some of these so-called Russian malign foreign influence operatives were even born. So we wanted to bring you on, Comrade Mark, talk a little bit about that, how you met the movement, what keeps you in the movement to this day, and anything else that you want to say about what's going on in this event tonight. Uhuru, Mark.
Uhuru. Well, it's an honor to be here. A bit of an embarrassment with these, comrades who've already spoken. Clearly, in some ways, I don't belong anywhere near the same stage, but perhaps I can say a few things, at least to the white community, about what brought me to the movement, because Ed may be able to speak to some of them. Obviously, my 1980s were very different from the 1980s for Mike Africa and Fred Hampton Jr. I was a graduate student at UC Berkeley, working on my second graduate degree, and just happened to get an apartment in North Oakland. And I realized we have an international audience here. So, Berkeley is a majority white city, very much governed by the university. Oakland is a plurality Black community, or has been, and supposedly one of the most diverse cities in the country, but of course that's diverse just like St. Louis is diverse, right? It's a very separated area. And I was definitely a white leftist, so I had read Marx, Engels, Lenin, Mao, all the rest of it, before I'd come into contact with the movement. And my first contact, of course, was the bakery, because they were literally 200 feet from the apartment that I was living in. And shortly thereafter was given the opportunity to hear the chairman. And for those of you who haven't, been in that world, I can't overestimate how completely alienated and separated, at least the white student population is at the university. Or this is UC Berkeley, which is supposedly this liberal organization. But in the 80s, certainly for the majority of like the white leftists, white liberals, there was anti-apartheid and anti-nuke. And I remember even seeing at the sign, there were like these anti-apartheid marches in Oakland. They're literally stepping over people in the African community to protest against apartheid out in South Africa. So that was, the irony was just so incredibly deep. And then, as soon as I met the chairman and the Uhuru movement, it was like, oh my God, the stuff that I've been reading about in theory was actually being put in practice there. And so they had the theory and the practice. And it was actually possible to like protest something not, in a meaningless fashion that's, 5,000 miles away, but look, there's an actual, true struggle right here, and here we are in Oakland, which is like the founding place of the Black Panther Party. And, the Uhuru movement basically like carrying that same message over, and that leadership is something that we in the white community could follow. And so, that was sort of the basis of me joining the movement at that time.
Uhuru, that is very powerful to hear about, Comrade Mark. I really appreciate that. And we're going to go to the next slide here. We've got a little then and now. There is Mark speaking at the Walk Against Genocide. I'm not sure what year this one is. Maybe that was, I don't know. I can't tell actually from this photo, but we can find out. And then there is Mark just a couple weeks ago here in St. Louis, speaking at the grand opening of the Black Power Vanguard's basketball court that was opened up by the Uhuru movement in North St. Louis. And it was great to see you here, Mark, in St. Louis, and you spoke at this powerful event where, which is one of the economic programs of the Uhuru movement that the US government is attempting to sanction and destroy. And you talked about how this is a movement that does what it says it's going to do. If you wanted to just say a little bit about.
Yeah, it's sort of like if there are these silly sites like Charity Navigator and so on that are supposed to like give rating points to different charitable organizations and so on. But really, in my mind, if you wanted to you want to support a movement that represents and is aligned with what you yourself believe, right? And that's hard enough. But then to find an organization that not only has an analysis, but they have a concrete program that's actually been carried out. And, at the time that I joined in the early 80s, all I'd heard about was like Measure O and a few things. That's a year or two past, but and the campaign for Desi Woods. But now we add to that 30 years of continuous struggle of concrete programs that are making real difference in the communities they're in, tied to certainly political struggles, building these economic institutions. And so, finding an organization was just a thing that changed my life, and is a privilege, I think, for all of us in terms of being able to connect to an organization that, not only is following in theory a particular line, but carrying it out in practice. And which brings me to, why also support Hands Off Uhuru, right? Because it's obvious that even these attacks have not in any way swayed the movement from carrying out these programs. I mean, when I was just there for this grand opening of the basketball court, I was hearing from Deputy Chair Onazin that basically on the very morning that the FBI came down, her conversation with them at one point came down to, am I under arrest? No. Okay, well, I got stuff to do. Because then she moved on directly to an inauguration of the doula program. Exactly. So that's the level of commitment that these, that the leadership of this organization has, and that's been carried through for all of this period. I also want to say too that sometimes, at least those of us in the white community, even unconsciously, have this idea that in the end, truth will prevail. The arc of justice is long, and somehow without effort, things will come around. But I think, those of us, all of us understand that that's not the case, right? I think most of us heard this famous quote from Frederick Douglass, find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you have the exact measure of the injustice and wrong which will be imposed on them. Because yes, of course, these charges are completely crazy and outlandish. That doesn't mean that they're going to be thrown out. We just heard, right, from the Move Family Africa, right, that the state will firebomb them and then arrest them for arson. Or in the case of the Hampton house, right, just a total rain of bullets and then arrest them for firing a gun, right? Or now we have the United States government, which promotes their support for free speech as one of the, that's a key rhetoric point justifying their atrocities throughout the world, is that they represent the defense of free speech, and yet that's the arrest here. So it doesn't matter how ironic it is, justice is not going to come without a struggle. And that's why we have to support the Uhuru 3 in terms of doesn't matter how ridiculous it is, the charges wouldn't be thrown out without a struggle.
Right. Uhuru, right on. Thank you, Mark. That was very powerful and well put. And I just really salute you, your stance, your words. That was very inspiring. And thank you for being on the program with us tonight. Uhuru, Mark.
Uhuru.
Uhuru. So we're going to be closing out this segment. I know we're a little over time, so we want to move through this next part briskly here, but I do want to just appreciate Mark for what he just said. And it takes me back to the quote that we heard earlier from Fred Hampton Jr., that repression breeds resistance. And your donation, your decision to become a monthly sustainer is a part of the resistance, is an act of resistance. It is staring the US government right in the face and saying, no, we are not going back. This is not COINTELPRO all over again. This time, the African Revolution will win. So we want to call on people who haven't already to go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate and become a sustainer. Fund the fight back, fund the resistance.
So we can maybe go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I think we're going to close out. So we wanted to just appreciate everyone who contributed tonight. Do we have a total? We'll come back with that in just a few minutes. But salute to this powerful event. Hands off Uhuru. Drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. Uhuru.
Uhuru, comrades. Wow, thank you so much. I want to appreciate Comrade Mark as well for just that really profound, statement, but also your continued support of the movement, which we have seen has spanned among years, because we understand that, really it's very simple. If people want to be free, we have an organization and a movement that is making that happen. So I want to salute you, Mark. I want to thank our fundraising team, who I know is working behind the scenes to kind of take in all of the emails that are coming in so that we can give a real total about of where we are right now. But I know we are getting very close, and I want to appreciate everybody for your donations and for your patience as well. And so we are going to move towards closing because we are over time, but I'm really glad that we had time to extend our presentation. And Comrade Sister Lisa, we're going to whip through these announcements. And, you know, I want to appreciate you because we're going to give a big hands off for Uhuru and chant at the end as we close it out. So I think the announcements are being pulled up right now. Perfect. Thank you, Comrade, on the back end. All right. So as you know, this is the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign. We want everybody to join the counteroffensive. Go to handsoffuhuru.org. This is where you can get updates about the campaign, learn how to, you know, join one of our various committees and get involved. And those of you who have told us and reached out and said that you want to get involved, we thank you for your patience. We will be contacting you because we need all hands on deck. So go to handsoffuhuru.org. On this website, you can sign the petition, hold the fundraiser, sign up for our emergency response pledge. If the state makes any further moves against the movement, you can receive a text message so that you can know how to respond. And we are preparing for trial. It will be around the corner, as we know that this will be in early 2024. And so we want everybody to be, you know, hands on deck and ready to mobilize as well. And if you want to be a part of that great fundraising work of our fundraising team, you can also join them as well. So you can do that by going to handsoffuhuru.org/ I think it's fundraiser or fundraising. So somebody will correct me on that as well. So Uhuru comrades, and again, we don't even have to say it because you did it today and you will continue to do it. And we want to really salute everybody for going to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. So thank you, comrades. And we're going to get that all resolved for you. But when you go to the website, sign up for our emails. If you go to the Hands Off Uhuru on the main page, you can just scroll down a little bit and you'll see this yellow box that says sign up for the emergency pledge. And then you'll also see the box that says sign up for email updates. This is how you will be added to our mailing list and you will never miss an announcement about what is happening, whether it's about an event or an update about the indictments as well. So just some upcoming events that are happening, and you can do all of this by going to handsoffuhuru.org/events. But on Wednesday, so this Wednesday, June 28th at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, the African People's Solidarity Committee is hosting a webinar called America Found Guilty of Genocide, Reparations Now. This will be hosted by Chair Penny Hess, who is, again, one of the Uhuru Three, the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, and Jesse Neville, another one of the Uhuru Three's chair of the Uhuru Solidarity member. The Uhuru Solidarity Movement, who are both, as we know, indicted for their stance for organizing for reparations under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. So this event will showcase a history of the African People's Socialist Party's decades of work to change the U.S. government's, to charge the U.S. government with the crime of genocide against African people using the legal definition found in the United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Punishment for the Crime of Genocide. So they'll be looking back at actual footage from the 1982 World Tribunal on Reparations held in Brooklyn, New York. And they're calling on white people to learn how you can get involved in building the movement for white reparations to African people and solidarity with the African anti-colonial struggle. So you can register by going to tinyurl.com/reparationsnow2023. Uhuru. We also want to, we say hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, because the Uhuru movement is international. We are building, and we want to salute the comrades on the ground in the Africa region. We want to salute comrades Tafari Mugeti, Morlai Kante, and Visto Sabisa, who hold a weekly webinar on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. And this is live on Facebook, and you can also catch it through the Hands Off page as well, where we will link this as well. Catch these comrades, get an opportunity to learn what is happening on the ground and to connect, with the worldwide struggle of the African liberation struggle through the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa. So I want to salute these comrades for building these committees, and this is one of their weekly events, and they are also looking to raise resources so that we can build and further build on the continent as well. And one very important announcement, and you will also learn about this if you signed up for our emails as well, but the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign is building a fight back coalition. We understand that it is very important that everybody who is fighting against any type of repression, if you are, across all political lines and across all, ways that you want to take down this system, whether you're anti-war, peace movement, whatever it may be, we have to come and we have to unite and fight back. And if you want to be involved of this fight back under the leadership, the anti-colonial struggle and the leadership of the African working class through the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign, we invite you to come to our Fight Back Coalition meeting. This is on July 8th, and you can do that by going to tinyurl.com/HOU Fightback. This is if you want to organize and you want to be a part of organizing this Hands Off Uhuru initiated Fight Back coalition. Please go to handsoffuhuru.org, or sorry, tinyurl.com/HOU Fightback. And we can put that in the chat for you as well. Thank you so much, comrade. So again, go to handsoffuhuru.org for all of the final events that you want to know about. And we want to also remind everybody that we are announcing the new book. The verdict is in. This is the verdict is in Reparations Now. This is the 40th year anniversary edition of the report from the 1982 World Tribunal on Reparations to African People, which includes a foreword by Luwezi Kinshasa and additional testimonies and an epilogue by Chairman Omali Yeshitela. This book is long awaited and will be released very soon. And you can pre-order this by going to the burningspear.store. Again, that's the burningspear.store. So that will conclude our announcements. We want to again say thank you everybody for coming to today's really very important and significant webinar. And those of us who are still on camera, let's come on and let's give a final, sayonara, I was going to say, Uhuru to what a wonderful and very inspiring and mobilizing meeting, because again, we are winning, we will win. And I want to appreciate everybody from the show team on the back end and everybody who has continued to support this campaign. And you, my co-MC, Lisa, always great to have you, comrade. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
So hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, and drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. Uhuru.
Hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, drop the charges.
Drop the charges, Uhuru. Hands off Chairman Omali Yeshitela.
Yeah, hands off. I'm looking to see these cameras open up.
Yes. Well, you know what? I think everybody is, they're probably there, but we all feel it. So
I'm wrapped up, ready to go. Yes. God is so young.
Uhuru, comrades. See you all soon.
Were you able to make an announcement on the?
Oh yes, Chairman. That's right. I'm still waiting for that.
Yeah.
Yes, Chairman. Good. Thank you, Chairman. And let me see. Fundraising. Do we have an update on our final total? I think the last one that I already had. Thank you, Chairman, for that. Let me see. Well, the last update that I had, which I know is much more than that, was $1,108. And I know that since then there have been plenty emails, and right now we are at 1,255. So 1,255 raised on today. And this is not including some of the other issues that we're having, which I'm hearing from our fundraising. So I want to just salute everybody because we are on our way and that we will make that goal. So go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate and let's continue to win this goal of $2,000 on today so that we can say that on today on this webinar, we made that happen, and share this webinar with others as well so that we can make that goal as well. So thank you everybody so much. Perfect. And our chat moderator just put that in the chat. So Uhuru, we are winning. Uhuru.